Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Record Shelf. We are going through the greatest rock albums of the 70s and 80s. And right now, we are beginning the album Machine Head from Deep Purple, which came out in 1972. Now, Deep Purple was a band consisting of these members. Richie Blackmore, the incredible guitar player. John Lord, an astronomically great keyboard player. And then we had Ian Pace, the amazing drummer, and Roger Glover, great bass player, and Ian Gillan, who had an amazing voice. So these were the original members of Deep Purple. Now, they had 5 albums before this. This was their next album, and this was a huge hit. Had a number of big hits on it, one being the, the seminal recording of Smoke on the Water. That was on this album, and a big, big hit it was. In fact, when I was early teenager, just getting into rock music and drumming, I was still listening to a lot of pop music, but Smoke on the Water was the one everybody wanted to play. And so I tried to learn what I could, wasn't very good. The other members of the band tried to learn what they could, and they weren't very good. We set ourselves up in the band shell in the local park, and with a little practice amps and whatever, my little drum set. It wasn't very much at the time. It was an old used Gretsch kit, and tried to play Smoke on the Water in the band shell that was there, and they kicked us out because we weren't very good. And we didn't have a permit to be there either, but that was our first chance at rock stardom. But we wanted to play Smoke on the Water, and so before that, everybody wanted to hear drummers play Wipeout. But that all changed with Smoke on the Water. Can you play Smoke on the Water? Because I've been working on it on my guitar. Anyway, it was a major, major hit, and everybody knows about Smoke on the Water now. So it's one of those songs that just went on and have a life of its own. But that was one of the songs off of this album. And this was the record number 6 for the group Deep Purple, which really was one of the first heavy metal hard rock bands coming out of the late 1960s, along with Black Sabbath. And Led Zeppelin was getting started then too, but they were really leaning toward a bluesy rock and never really got to the heavy metal part. There's had some songs that could be qualified to fit in that regime. But nevertheless, both Deep Purple and Black Sabbath were two hard rock, heavy metal, and I say that because the genre hadn't even existed yet. It didn't come along until later. And so, but if you looking back on the music industry, you'd say, oh yeah, you can see that Black Sabbath and Deep Purple were the first really hard rock, maybe even metal bands. Okay, and I would say Black Sabbath gets that moniker even more than Deep Purple does. But anyway, this is where they were. And Black Sabbath had a very incredibly unique sound. They had the amazing guitar playing of Richie Blackmore, Ian Pace's stellar and amazing jazzy style of drum playing. And then we had John Lord, who was the king of the keyboards, okay? He played this Hammond organ. And there's live shows, I kid you not, where he's literally rocking that keyboard back and forth. He played it like it was a guitar. He played it like he was carrying it around. Just an amazing player. Rest in peace, John Lord, who passed away a few years ago. And then, of course, Glover, who played the bass, and he was an amazing bass player, just perfect for the music they were playing. And Ian Gillan, the singer, who had an incredible voice, was perfect for a hard rock, a hard driving, fast moving, hard rock sound. Ian Gillan's voice, he could get notes that were so high, that I don't think even only dogs could hear you. You know what I'm saying? That's how high his voice got. But he would stay on key, and he had a great projection and a very dynamic singer, very flexible, but powerful, very strong, and just perfect for hard rock, and one of the best voices of his day, for sure. And he had that voice for quite some time. In fact, they're still touring today, and he's still singing. So there you go. I doubt he's singing in the same key and register that he was at the time, but he's still singing, and that I give credit to him for that. So Deep Purple had put out 5 albums, and this was their album that kicked open a door for even more fame and more success, called Machine Head. And we're talking now 8-track tapes, okay? This is back when 8-track tapes were the norm in cars. So if you wanted to drive around playing Deep Purple, you had to have an 8-track tape, and I had one. And Machine Head wasn't the tape in everybody's muscle car in the 1970s. Definitely a standard issue with your muscle car was Deep Purple. And a lot of great songs on this album, and we're going to cover them one at a time, starting with side 1. And the first song is Highway Star. Now, Highway Star is a pretty straightforward rock song about a car, about a guy loving his car. He's crazy about his car. His car is his girlfriend. His car is everything. And he just likes to take it out and race it on the streets, and it's loaded down. He has great tires, and he has great stereo, and he's got all the gizmos. He's got, all the motor parts he needs, and it's all souped up. It's a young man's car fantasy, song. But it's also one of the best songs to drive in if you want to get a citation. When I was young, I would put this on and pedal to the metal, and yeah, I got pulled over a few times with this song on. It was a traveling, driving song where you just slowly push that pedal down faster and faster until you are literally blowing, the trees away on the side of the road, tearing up that pavement. But the first song is Highway Star, and Highway Star was a good radio song, in fact, along with Smoke on the Water on this same album. And you're going to hear a really good riff. It's just a good, solid riff by Ritchie Blackmore. And then, of course, you're going to hear some amazing keyboard work by John Lord and Ian Pace's drumming. Now, Ian Pace, let me tell you about Ian Pace. I'm a drummer. I know about Ian Pace. Ian Pace is one of the best top 5 drummers in the world, in my opinion, in rock drumming. And he learned his chops from jazz and swing music. A lot of those guys in that generation, that's where they got it from. Your Gene Krupas, your Buddy Riches, and Louis Bellson and those guys. And so Ian Pace played drums like a jazz drummer. The drums very close to his chest, and he played it. He played it both traditional and matchstick, and he played very close to the heads. And he played his rock drums like a jazz drum set. And he was a lefty, so everything was kind of in reverse. But he was an incredible drummer, and he had I call him the fastest drummer ever. He plays such amazing rolls, double stroke and single stroke rolls and fills, very quick, very tight, very clean. In fact, we did a show on Rock My Bean about Ian Pace doing a roll with one hand. I've never seen anybody do it, but he did it, and it blew me away. And anyway, so Ian Pace was an amazing drum part, and he kept up with Ritchie and John Lord, and it was just amazing that they had the perfect guy for this band. So Ian Pace's drumming was just outstanding. Ritchie Blackmore, one of the greatest guitar players of his generation, easily. Ian Gillan, fantastic vocalist, perfect early hard rock vocalist. Roger Glover, amazing bass player, and he kept that rhythm section just locked in with Ian Pace and John Lord's incredible keyboarding. These guys were all virtuosos, stellar musicians, wrote great music. You got to treat yourself to some live performances. If you haven't, check out some of the live performances from the early 70s. Will knock your socks off. You watch the audience in these things, and they're just some of them are just standing there. It's like, what are you doing? This music drove me crazy when I was young. And some of them now you see the audiences going nuts because this music really gets your blood boiling. It's incredible music. These guys had such great dynamics, control of their instruments. They understood how music should be written, and they knew how to really just hit you with a great wave of incredible rock and roll and then pull back. And the dynamics were amazing, just incredible. So we're going to start out with Highway Star, classic song from classic rock in the early days of hard rock and heavy metal. So here we go with Highway Star. Woo, man, that was so good. That was so good. I just love that song. Just, come on, man. You can see what I'm talking about. You get behind the wheel of a car with this song playing, you're gonna get a citation. It's gonna happen. Happened to me more than once. This was like the perfect song for the muscle car generation. Now, those of you who are young people, you have no idea what a muscle car is. Yeah, it's over. Been over for a long time. But in the late 60s and 1970s, up until the whole gas crisis and stuff, muscle cars. They were cars designed for power, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a little historical lesson, those of you who weren't around for that. Detroit was making cars, muscle cars. They wanted cars that looked fast. They were powerful motors in them. Remember, back then, cars didn't have any pollution controls. It was a simple motor with a gearbox, a transmission, folks, a steering wheel, okay? There were no seat belts. There were no headrests. There was no safety features, okay? It was for driving, okay? And these cars came out, and of course, they were not affordable to high school kids, to older people, but not super old because it wasn't for old people. People drove the big boat sedans and all that. But muscle cars were for guys in their 20s and 30s, okay? That's what they were really for. Then in the 1970s, we had a big gas crisis. We had a big Arab-Israeli war, and the Arabs cut off our oil, and it all went south. And suddenly, the Japanese who've been making these little rice burners, these little tiny rice burners that are very gas efficient, started selling them on the American market. And a lot of our parents, my parents in particular, went out and bought Japanese cars, and they had to get rid of their muscle cars, their big gas burners, right? So what they do? They gave them to their kids. They sold them to kids, and we got them for a song. And I had a Chevy Chevelle myself, and yeah, it had been driven for a while. It probably didn't run as great as it could have, but a lot of guys back then would take their car to the high school auto shop and soup it up, fix it up, put new parts in. And it was one way to do it. So you joined the auto shop club, and you took your muscle car to high school, and you fixed it up there, and guys were souping up their cars and making their engines a little better and putting all kinds of stuff on it, chains, steering wheels, whatever, to make this car just stand out. And then you take it on the weekend, you drive it around on Friday, Saturday nights around town, playing this kind of music on the 8-track stereo, and you go driving to the local drive-in and just cruising around town, going to parties, talking to the women, etc. That's what this was, the car culture music right here, the muscle car culture music, and that's what this song is about. And it was very special to that period, and I remember it very, very vividly. Okay, I remember my car was green. I had a forest green Chevy Chevelle SS, and loved that car. Always wished I'd kept it, and I'm like, oh, why did I sell that car? Why? Anyway, so that's what this song is. A Highway Star. It's about a guy and his car, and he loves his car. It is everything. It's his girlfriend even. That's how much he loves his car. Now, in this music, could you listen to Ian Pace's drumming? Whenever he would do an accent, he wouldn't just do an eighth note or a quarter note. He played 16th notes. A lot of those rolls going in there. In fact, when he does this, dun, dun, okay, he comes in there with a roll. Ian Pace is one of the best drummers in that regard that I've ever known, and he's still that good. He's incredible. His drumming is so precise and so fast, and he fills his fills with 16th notes, not eighth notes, not quarter notes, 16th notes and triplets and rolls all over the place. You could hear it. Just amazing, this guy's dexterity and his speed, okay? And he's playing with John Lord's incredible keyboard playing, just powerful keyboard playing. And of course, Richie Blackmore playing those arpeggios, playing those tapping. I mean, we waited till Eddie Van Halen to hear a lot of this stuff, about 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe like 4 years later. But Richie Blackmore was doing amazing guitar work in '72, and this album is it. Amazing guitar work. All right, that is Highway Star. So now we are going to listen to another song, and it is called Maybe I'm a Leo. Here we go with Maybe I'm a Leo. drumming there. Great drumming. All right, outstanding. Maybe I'm a Leo. Funny name, but a great song. It's got really heavy swagger. Okay, it's got that dun 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 dun. Dun. Clearly an early '70s rock. Okay, late '60s, early '70s. You can just tell. This is back, folks, before digital anything, okay? You wanted to make great music, you better be a great musician. There wasn't going to be all kinds of technology to save your butt and make you sound better than you are. If you weren't good, everyone would know it. If you were good, everyone would know it. But these guys had to be great on their instruments and really understand them to play them so well. You couldn't hide it. You couldn't engineer it in the studio to make it sound better than it was. And so you're getting raw rock and roll, raw, very raw. We had a couple of effects boxes back then for guitars. It wasn't like later where they had just lines of effects boxes. You had a fuzz box, a distortion pedal, whatever. That was about it. And you had to do a lot of stuff yourself. And the drummers had back then they were just starting to get into double bass sets and little bigger drum sets. But Ian Place played a relatively small set. He had a single bass hit. He had about four toms, 2 floor toms, and 2 toms up on top. And he had a hi-hat and a snare, and he had some cymbals. It wasn't a huge set, but he played it like he was possessed. It was incredible. And he had those tight little rolls everywhere. You listen to him, they're all over the place. Where most drummers would just go da-da-da-da-da. He would do ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. You see the difference? Ian Pace did that, and it put a lot of pressure on drummers like me when I was a young teenager. Okay, I got to find a way to get those rolls in there. I wasn't doing it that way. So it put more pressure on me to get my rolls down, to get faster and more flexibility. And of course, you got the other guys. Ian Gillan's voice is just so good for this music. He really works so well. Kind of that sassy, a little bit of ruggedness to it. But he had a great tone and a breathy tone when he needed it. And he could change off. And like I said, he could go very, very high. He can get those notes that just, it would shatter glass. So Ian Gillan's voice really, really helped this album, helped this band out. Good song, exactly what it is. Not the greatest song on the album, but still a very good song. Now that we've done that, we are going to go to another album, the next song, and it is called Pictures of Home. And Pictures of Home is the next song on the album, and you're going to hear exactly what that's like. So here we are with Pictures from Home. Let me get this thing lined up for you. And here we are now. Yeah.
Nobody's up there to
Roger Glover on the bass. Wow, awesome, fantastic. There you go, folks. And that was Pictures of Home, and a great song from a great band on a great album. And you got this, once again, this driving rock that you got in Highway Star. We had the swagger for the second song. Dun, 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 dun. You went back to the bum, 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 bum. And Deep Purple liked that driving rock. They did it real well. Let me tell you something. Deep Purple was great in the studio, but they were stellar on stage. And if you ever get a chance to watch, I said, to watch old studio videos of them playing live, it'll blow your socks off. These guys would go on and on and on, and it would just get better and better and more incredible until they finally ended. You're just exhausted. You're like, oh my gosh, that was just amazing. And you know they had to be exhausted because these guys, they played more than one song in a concert. And they just squeezed everything out of the song in a live show. I'm telling you, as good as these recordings are, as good as they are in studio, they were an incredible live act. And they put 150%, 200% in those live shows. It just blow you away. Just blow you away. So get a chance. Check it out. Watch Deep Purple in live shows. Amazing. Amazing. You're going to see stuff in Deep Purple's live shows that you didn't see in rock bands for a number of years later. I mean, the stuff Richie Blackmore was doing with his guitar. I mean, it just wasn't done, okay, for a little while. A lot of guys were still doing other things. So Richie was on the bleeding edge of heavy rock guitar. And the whole band was on the bleeding edge of heavy rock. In fact, they weren't even sure how to really categorize this band at the time. And word heavy metal or metal didn't even exist. They just said it was hard rock. Now we had things like acid rock, which was more like Jimi Hendrix stuff, etc. Cream, maybe will be fit into that. But bands like Deep Purple, they were pushing a new envelope. They were going in new directions, just like Black Sabbath was. And so I kind of put those two bands in the same category of early metal, hard rock. But you know what? Even though it was hard rock, it was just so well done. All the instruments were doing exactly what they needed to do to carry that song along and drive it where they wanted it to go. And these guys had boundless energy to make songs like this. Just amazing. Well, that's the first three songs of the album of Machine Head. Classic rock. If there's anything that's classic, this album is classic. The beginnings of hard rock, the beginnings of metal. It all started here with bands like Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. And always loved Deep Purple. Always been a big fan of theirs. Well, we're going to continue on with the album. I hope you'll join me for that. I hope you've liked what I've done so far. And, I'm a guy who grew up with this stuff as a teenager. It brings back a ton of memories and good memories. And, I know a lot of you about my age. You remember exactly what it was like. It brings it all back. And for those of you who are younger, I just want to tell you that you missed it. I don't know what else to say. You missed it. It was a great time for rock music. Because, as I said, there was no technology to make you sound better. You had to be good at that instrument or everyone would know. You couldn't pull the wool over anybody's eyes with some digital wizardry, okay? It was what it was. You were either a good singer or you weren't. You could either play guitar or you could not, okay? And these guys not only played it well, they played it extraordinarily well. They were at the top of their game. Okay, so we're going to move on. The rest of the album in the next show, we're going to do Never Before, Smoke on the Water, and Lazy. So I hope you'll join me for the rest of Machine Head. It is The Record Shelf. I'm John for Rock My Bean, and I thank you for spending your time with me, and I'll see you again next time.